Today we'll talk a little bit more about SDXL Lightning. Since release, we now have some checkpoints available to use and hopefully more on the way. In this, I'll show you what settings to use, some examples, and some quick and easy presets for Fooocus to help you get going. And with that, let's get started. Right away, your first question is probably what is the difference between Turbo and Lightning? While there are several things, the major points that will matter to most is that Lightning is trained on 1024 resolution, while Turbo's resolution is only 512. And perhaps even more important to some is that the license is the same as the base SDXL model, meaning you can use the images however you like, whereas Turbo can be used but has limitations commercially. Before we check out the new models, I want to go over the Lightning LoRAs. While using a checkpoint trained for Lightning will give better results overall, we can use the LoRAs with any SDXL model in order to get a similar effect. Once in Fooocus, let's go to the Advanced tab. I will change to 1024 by 1024. This is the recommended resolution, but you can use anything you like. Then go to Model tab and pick a model that you want to try with Lightning. I'm going to pick Dynavision XL. I will use one of my wildcards for this. And you can see this is a stylized checkpoint. Now let's add a Lightning LoRa. For this, I will use the 8-step LoRa and start with a weight of 1. Then in Advanced tab, we will change the guidance to 1. Then go to the Debug tab. Change the sampler to Euler, and then change the scheduler to SGM uniform. Then change the forced overwrite of sampling steps to 8. With that, we can run them again. And you can see it's a much faster generation. And even with a lower guidance and only 8 steps, it feels like there is more detail added. If you want a bit more color and punch to it, we can increase the guidance a little. If you want less cartoony, you can lower the guidance a bit, and even lower the LoRa weight some. Now you can see the hair strands are separating and becoming more realistic, but it also is getting a bit of a faded look now, so it is a trade-off. You can load any SDXL checkpoint and use this LoRa to get pretty good results in a fraction of the time. You can even load up a Turbo checkpoint and use the Lightning LoRa in combination to add some interesting results. I'll be using the LoRa at a much lower weight, so we will need to change the settings to reflect the Turbo model rather than the LoRa. So in the Advanced tab, we will change the sampler to DPMPP SDE and the scheduler to Keras. And the steps will go down to 4. And then generate. And without the LoRa, we get a good but lower detailed image, and also a bit washed out since the guidance and steps are on the lower end of the Turbo recommendation. But with the 4-step LoRa selected, and the weight set to about 0.3, we get a sharper, higher contrast, and slightly more detailed image with the same amount of steps. Now, this isn't to say this is better. Maybe the more washed out, softer look is what you want. There are no best settings since one person's opinion of what looks good is different than the next. Okay, let's move on to the Lightning checkpoints. As of creating this, there are about 15 available on Civet AI. I'm sure there will be more to come. Luckily, some of the most popular are already available, like Juggernaut and Dreamshaper. You can view these by changing the filter here to SDXL Lightning and selecting Checkpoint. As usual, download these into wherever your model checkpoints are. Once that is complete and the downloads are done, we can go back to Fooocus and hit our refresh all files. Then we can select a Lightning checkpoint. I will start with Juggernaut Lightning, and also make sure to clear any LoRas. And we will start with the Juggernaut recommended settings, which is guidance between 1 to 2, and steps between 4 to 6. The sampler should already be on DPMPP SDE and scheduler to Keras, and then generate. And for only 4 steps, these are really good. It isn't going to be a replacement for the default checkpoints when going for maximum detail. But that isn't always what you are looking for, especially for non-realistic images. We can mix this up a little too by lowering the guidance a little and upping the steps a couple. By doing that, we will let a little more detail through with more steps, but hopefully not have it overbaked by lowering the guidance. And we can see some added detail to the armor and an overall more stylized look. I can change this up and check out some more realistic images. And again, these won't be as high detailed or as versatile as the base models, but the increased speeds and minimal VRAM requirements is great for low-end GPUs, and with a little effort, you can still get usable images. Also, LoRAs seem to work a little better for me than they did with the turbo models. This NV zoom slider can be helpful when trying to get a close-up or a full body shot easily. Raising the weight up will give you zoomed-in shots. And lowering into the negatives will give zoomed-out shots. So now that you got the basics down, let's make this even easier and create a preset we can use for both the Lightning checkpoints and the LoRa. Go into your Fooocus folder and make your way down to presets. In here, we want to make a copy of the default preset. And then right-click and edit with Notepad. I am going to make this a preset for Dreamshaper Lightning, but use any Lightning checkpoint you wish. First thing is, we want to copy the exact file name of that checkpoint. And go to the folder where they are located and copy the entire file name. And then go back to your text document, highlight the file between the two parentheses, and paste in your new checkpoint. Now I have my checkpoints in a subfolder. In the past I had issues getting subfolders to be recognized, but that seems to be working now. So I will add my subfolder of XL and have double backslashes. Make sure it's 2 slashes or it won't work. The refiner will stay as none, but we want to delete the default LoRa here. Erase everything between the two parentheses and type none. Then go down to the default CFG, which is our guidance scale number, and you can have this between 1 to 2. I am going to set mine to 2. Now we want the default sampler to be on DPMPP SDE and the scheduler on Keras. All of the other settings here are fine. If you like the default styles, you can leave these. I like to have them off to start, so I am going to delete everything between the two brackets. And you can set whatever default resolution you want. I'm going to have it at 1024 by 1024. Now everything else below here isn't needed, so we can remove it or leave it. I'm going to remove it. Any setting that isn't included here will default to the config text file. Now there is one thing missing in here, and that is the step setting. To make it easy, I am going to copy the line from this file, the config modification tutorial text file. Open this and scroll down to the bottom. You will see this line here. You want to copy that exactly. Go back to your new preset text and put that after the last line, making sure the previous line does have a comma and this last line does not. And last, we want to change the steps to 4. If everything is done right, we can save and then close. And we want to rename this file to lightning.json. Now we want to go back to the Fooocus root folder, and here I am going to make a copy of the run anime file. Then edit with Notepad, and after the preset, erase anime and put in the file name of your preset. If you named it like mine, then it will be Lightning. Save and close. And then rename the file. I will erase anime-copy and put it as Lightning. And we should have a run_lightning.bat file. And as long as your Fooocus is closed, run your new bat file. If it loaded correctly, your new settings will show. If they didn't load, check your command prompt for any errors. If you see something like this, check this line here. Mine says I have an error at line 37, column 1. I can reopen my preset, and down here I can see where the error is. There is a comma on the last line. That's the error. I'm going to erase that and save, and now my settings should load. And it looks like everything is correct this time. If you want, you can also set up a preset for the Lightning LoRas if you wish. Just go through the same steps as we just did, but use the LoRa settings and copy the LoRa you want into one of the spaces that say none. Just make sure to get the entire file name in there. I also wanted to show this quick comparison on the ByteDance Hugging Face page. In the first row, we can see a typical base model SDXL outcome next to examples of all the new LoRas. And you can see the Lightning images seem to adhere more to what you get out of the base SDXL, whereas Turbo and LCM tend to be quite different with the same prompt. Just something to keep in mind. Lastly, I wanted to show some better example images, just so you can see that Lightning can still give you stunning results. These were created by simply scrolling through the Juggernaut Lightning image page on Civit AI and using some of their prompts to get started. All of these were done with 2 guidance and 4 steps on the Juggernaut Lightning model. And that is all I have for you all today. I hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next one.